chaos we were promised. They told you the world would get better. But what if that was never the plan? For years, we've been sold a story of progress, of peace, of predictability. But open your eyes. 5 weeks into the year, and we've already seen wildfires, plagues, wars, and economic uncertainty. Your feet is chaos. Your body may be already tired. Your mind tense. But here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. Life has never been stable, and it was never meant to be. Every 4-year period in history is a hurricane in disguise. And this one, it's just our turn. So if you're waiting for things to calm down, for clarity to descend like sunshine after rain, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. The Stoics never counted on stability. They prepared for storms. And that's what this video is, not an escape plan, but a battle manual. Because the question isn't, how do we avoid the chaos? It's, how do we stand strong right in the middle of it? So what do you do when the world shakes? You don't run. You don't deny it. You don't wait for someone to fix it. You train your soul to hold steady. The Stoics didn't offer feel-good quotes or wishful thinking. They handed down tools, tested in exile, in prison, on the battlefield, in plague-ridden streets. And now they're here for you, not to take away the chaos, but to help you meet it with clarity, courage, and control. In this video, we're not talking theory. We're talking 13 timeless practices, real, practical, battle-tested tools you can start using today. Not someday, not when things calm down. Now. Because if Marcus Aurelius could keep his mind calm while ruling a crumbling empire, if Epictetus could find peace as a slave without a single possession to his name, then maybe, just maybe, you and I can face what we're facing today too. Let's begin. 1. The inner fortress, what no one can take from you. You can lose your job. You can lose your home. You can lose the people you love. But here's what no one ever teaches us. You cannot lose your response. And in a world where everything feels fragile, that's not a small thing. That's your power. Just a few weeks ago, I woke up to a headline about an earthquake halfway around the world, my inbox full of bad news, and 2 sick kids coughing in the next room. And for a moment, I felt it creeping in, that quiet panic, that whisper of helplessness that says, everything's falling apart. But then I remembered what Epictetus taught almost 2,000 years ago. There are things which are within our power and things which are not. He was a slave. He was exiled. He was tortured. And yet, he never let anyone take from him the only thing that truly belonged to him, his mind. It sounds simple, maybe too simple. But try living it. Try waking up to chaos and still choosing calm. Try watching the world spin and choosing not to spin with it. You don't control the market. You don't control the war. You don't control your partner's mood or your boss's decisions or the traffic jam that ruins your morning. But here's what you do control: how you show up in that meeting. Whether you raise your voice or lower it. Whether you spiral or breathe. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of the most powerful empire on earth, wrote to himself in his private journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." It's not denial, it's discipline. And it's hard, because when the world feels unfair, we want to react. When people disappoint us, we want to lash out. When plans fall apart, we want to fall with them. But if we do that, we've surrendered the only thing we do control. So I ask you, right now in the middle of all this, what's up to you and what isn't? This isn't just philosophy. This is survival. In the noise of politics and panic, in the exhaustion of trying to fix what isn't yours to fix, this is how you get your sanity back. You draw a line. You say, this is mine, and this is not. And you stay rooted there like a mountain in the middle of a storm. Stay with me, because in the next part, we'll explore how the wisdom of the past can become your shield for the future. But even after you've drawn the line, after you've said, this is mine, this is not, The storm doesn't stop. You still wake up to noise. You still get pulled, shaken, tested. And that's why inner strength needs more than just willpower. It needs nourishment, reinforcement, a daily discipline of remembering what matters. Because when the world tries to rewrite your priorities in panic and pixels, you need something ancient, something timeless, to help you remember who you are. And that's where the old words come in. The next practice? It isn't flashy, it isn't viral, but it might be the most powerful one of all. Read the old to see the now. 2. Read the old to see the now. The news wants urgency. It demands your attention. But books ask for your presence. They whisper, they wait, and they never shout. In a time where headlines expire by the hour and every notification feels like a small fire, there's something radically grounding about opening a page written hundreds, even thousands of years ago. I stopped watching the news the day I realized it wasn't informing me. It was inflaming me. What if, instead of refreshing your feed, you open Meditations? What if, instead of another breaking alert, you reread Man's Search for Meaning or the Iliad? That's what I did. That's what I do. Because I don't want information with a 24-hour shelf life. I want ideas that last a lifetime. Winston Churchill once said, "Sometimes it helps to put a few thousand years between you and the present moment." He wasn't being poetic. He was being practical. When the world burned, Churchill turned to history. When Marcus Aurelius ruled through plague and war, he turned to philosophy. When Stockdale was tortured in Vietnam, he turned to Epictetus. They didn't read to escape. They read to endure. And so I ask, what are you feeding your mind right now? Are you refreshing your fear? Or are you reinforcing your foundation? One guest on my podcast once told me, "I can't remember a single news article from 10 years ago, but I remember the books I read, and those books shaped who I became." That stuck with me, because it's true. Fiction, philosophy, memoirs of those who've suffered and still stood tall. These are not luxuries. They're tools. They're shields. They're anchors. So no, I don't spend much time watching cable or scrolling Twitter. I spend my time with Viktor Frankl, with Marcus Aurelius, with Zeno, with Maya Angelou, with Solzhenitsyn, with history. Because while this moment feels unprecedented, it isn't. It's just another verse in a very old song. And books, they teach you how to sing through the storm. So stay with me, because in the next part, we're going to talk about something even more difficult. How to stay steady when everything around you is falling apart. Because once you've fed your mind with the wisdom of the past, you start to see the present differently. The panic doesn't vanish, but now you have perspective. The noise doesn't stop, but now you know what to listen for and what to ignore. And that clarity, it points you somewhere. It doesn't say run. It doesn't say wait for better times. It says do your job, right now, right here, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, because the ancient words weren't just meant to soothe you. They were meant to strengthen you for action. And that brings us to the third practice. 3. Do your job. When the world loses its way, hold the line. Some days, everything will feel broken. Institutions, expectations, even the people you trusted. But there's one thing that doesn't get to break, you. The world doesn't need more cynics. It needs people who remember who they are, even when nothing around them makes sense. When Marcus Aurelius asked, "How does anything stop you from acting with courage, justice, wisdom, and discipline?" he wasn't posing a riddle. He was offering a compass. Because when the winds of change blow, when power shifts, when fairness seems absent, the Stoic response isn't retreat. It's to stand straighter. Your job is your job, not the one on your LinkedIn, the one in your soul. You're a parent? Be a good one, especially when it's hard. A teacher? Teach what matters, even if no one's listening. A creator? Create something that makes the world a little less dark. A citizen? Speak truth, even if your voice trembles. There's a story Ryan told of Helvidius, a Roman senator threatened by Emperor Vespasian. Stop speaking your mind, or I will kill you. Helvidius looked him in the eye and said, You do your part, I will do mine. That's Stoicism. Not loud, not rebellious for rebellion's sake. Just unwavering, just unshakable. Just doing the right thing, no matter what. Because when you forget your role, the world suffers. When you abandon your duty, disorder spreads. The Stoics didn't ask whether the times were fair. They asked whether their character would endure them. And when everything else fades, money, approval, power, that's what remains, the quiet legacy of a life lived in alignment. But how do you keep showing up when everything feels so discouraging? When the world overwhelms you with noise, with despair, with cruelty, you look around and you look for the helpers. Look for the helpers, a different kind of strength. When the world starts to burn, literally or metaphorically, it's easy to only see the fire. You scroll and it's outrage. You turn on the TV and it's disaster. You talk to people and it's all fear. But as Fred Rogers said, look for the helpers, because they're always there. Quiet, steady, saving what they can. When wildfires swallowed an entire American city, some people tweeted. Others flew planes into smoke, drove trucks through flame, gave water to strangers they'd never meet again. They didn't post about it, they just showed up. Inmates volunteered to fight the fires. Nurses worked past exhaustion. A neighbor cut the grass of a grieving family without being asked. Small acts, giant courage. And when you focus on them, on the ones who are stepping up instead of tearing down, you feel something shift inside you. Not comfort, not escape, obligation. Because the Stoic doesn't just admire virtue from a distance. They reflect it, they become it. It's not enough to point at good people and say, how inspiring. The question is, are you willing to be one of them? We can't fix everything, but we can fix something. We can throw one starfish back into the sea. We can clean up one corner of our street. We can say one kind word to someone we'd normally walk past. And no, that won't make the news. It won't go viral, but it will matter to someone, maybe to more people than we'll ever know. The Stoic life isn't about detachment, it's about direction. And sometimes to move forward, we need to pause, to reflect, to sharpen the blade before the next battle. And that's where we turn to one of the oldest, simplest, and most powerful tools we have, the journal. 5. Keep a journal where you wage the real battle. There's a war going on, not the one on the news, the one inside you. Every day, your mind is under siege, by fear, by noise, by endless distractions dressed up as urgency. So where do you fight back? Where do you win that quiet, essential battle to stay yourself? On the page, in the journal, in the stillness. Marcus Aurelius was emperor of the most powerful empire on earth. He lived through plagues, wars, betrayal, heartbreak. And how did he hold on to reason? Not with armies, not with proclamations. He wrote. He wrestled with himself on paper. And 2,000 years later, we call those private thoughts meditations. Your journal isn't for Instagram. It's not for followers. It's for survival. When everything outside spins out, the page waits patiently inside. It doesn't judge. It doesn't scroll. It lets you see. George Orwell once said, "To see what is in front of one's nose requires a constant struggle." And your journal, it sharpens your vision. It's where you get honest about your fear, where you question your anger before it speaks, where you remember your values before the world tells you to trade them for likes, for profit, for validation. You don't need to write eloquently. You just need to write truthfully. Because if you don't examine your mind, who will? If you don't unload your frustration there, where else will it spill? A journal is not a luxury. It's a tool of clarity, of courage, of self-mastery. Ryan says, I have a little leather journal. It's where I ask hard questions. It's where I root myself in bigger ideas. You don't need fancy prompts. Just sit. Ask, what am I afraid of right now? What would a wiser version of me do? Am I acting out of love or fear? And write it down, because the page doesn't lie, but it can lead you back to truth, your truth. And from that place of truth, you can start asking a bigger question. With whatever strength and influence you have, how are you using it? Because clarity breeds responsibility. And that's where we go next. 6. Be a steward, the weight of influence, the responsibility of reach. In a world obsessed with getting louder, the Stoic asks a quieter question. What are you using your voice for? Ryan Holiday sits at his desk every morning, a card taped beside his screen. It says, am I being a good steward of Stoicism? It's a question we should all be asking, whether we reach 1 million people or just one. Because every platform is a form of power, and every time we speak, share, post, invite, we're either helping the world rise or we're helping it rot. Some will trade integrity for traffic. They'll give microphones to outrage merchants and trolls, pretending it's curiosity when it's just cowardice. They'll say, it's just business. But the Stoic knows, nothing is ever just anything. Everything we do shapes who we are. Solzhenitsyn wrote, let the lie come into the world, let it even triumph. But not through me. That's what we get to say. Not through me will pass conspiracy. Not through me will spread cruelty, deception, bitterness, hate. Not through me. Because while we don't control the algorithm, we do control our principles. We can refuse the clickbait. We can reject the shortcut. We can choose depth over drama. And when we do, yes, it might cost us followers, opportunities, even friendships. But we gain something far more precious, integrity. And with clarity comes accountability. So ask yourself, what ideas are you amplifying? What energy are you transmitting? Are you using your influence, or is it using you? Because in a time of volatility and noise, what the world needs most is people rooted in what doesn't change. And that's where we go next. 7. Focus on the unchanging. Build on bedrock, not on sand. In a world that worships the new, the Stoic bets on the timeless. The trending topic today, forgotten by tomorrow. The viral outrage, replaced in hours. But character, patience, discipline, they're never out of style. They're never irrelevant. Jeff Bezos, in a now legendary letter to shareholders in 1997, wrote that Amazon's success would come not from chasing what changes, but by focusing on what doesn't. The Stoics understood this 2,000 years before he wrote it. Seneca called it eudaimonia, the state of human flourishing. He said, it is not the man who is too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor. In other words, clarity doesn't come from accumulation, but from alignment. So what doesn't change? The need to be useful, the call to be honest, the longing to be kind, the value of working with your hands, of finishing what you start, of making something that lasts. While others zigzag from one passion to the next, from one opinion to another, the Stoic walks the long road. Not because it's easy, but because it's right. The world will always try to seduce you with the illusion of speed. But peace lives in the slow, steady commitment to what matters. Let them chase the algorithm. You chase virtue. Let them switch directions with every gust of wind. You become the mountain. Because when all the noise fades, when the hype dies, when the news cycle resets, only the things that never change still matter. And among those things, one remains the hardest, the rarest, and the most essential of all: the way we treat each other. 8. Treat people well. When everything else fails, be kind. In Meditations, Marcus Aurelius begins Book 2 with a warning to himself. Today, I shall meet with the meddling, the ungrateful, the arrogant, the deceitful, the envious, the unsocial. He wasn't being pessimistic. He was being prepared. Because when you walk into the world expecting perfection, you set yourself up for disappointment. But when you walk in ready to love anyway, to respond not with bitterness but with boundaries, not with resentment but with resolve, you become unshakable. You can't control cruelty, but you can refuse to echo it. You can't fix everyone's ego, but you can protect your own integrity. You don't have to be like them. And that's not just philosophy. That's power. I don't get to choose how strangers treat me, but I do choose how I speak to my team. I choose the vendors we work with, the policies we implement, the tone we bring into meetings. I decide whether I bring light or add to the darkness. It's easy to say it doesn't matter. No one else cares. But that's the exact moment it matters most. Because when everyone else cuts corners, when everyone else gives up on decency, that's your chance to be different. As Epictetus said, it is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. That includes how you treat others, even when they don't deserve it, especially when they don't. Because every time you choose grace over grudge, respect over reaction, you're not just protecting your peace, you're planting seeds. And that brings us to something even deeper than kindness, something that holds a fragmented world together when institutions fail. Community, the kind we build, the kind we show up for, the kind we desperately need. 9. Cultivate community. Don't wait for connection, create it. We say we're more connected than ever. But when was the last time you knew your neighbor's name? When was the last time you stood in a room full of people, not for a transaction, but for a conversation? Modern life is fast, efficient, optimized, but somewhere in that optimization, we've deleted something human. That's why Ryan and his wife opened a bookstore during a pandemic. Not because it made financial sense, but because it made human sense. They wanted to bring people together in a small town, around real pages, real conversations, real eye contact. And that bookstore? It's a nod to Stoic origins. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, was shipwrecked and broke when he stumbled into a bookshop in the Athenian agora. That random encounter changed his life and the course of Western philosophy. It always starts small. A conversation, a book club, a dinner with no phones, a smile to the cashier, a vote at a city council meeting, a decision to stay and build when it would be easier to scroll and disappear. The Stoics believed in Cosmopolis, a world city where every person is a citizen. But citizenship isn't just a right. It's a role, one you play, one you practice, and no algorithm can build community for you. That takes effort, intention, presence. So don't wait for connection to knock. Be the one who knocks. Build the kind of neighborhood you'd want to raise your kids in. Support the kind of places you'd want to exist a decade from now. Because the strongest society isn't the one with the most tech. It's the one with the most trust. But there's something else that weakens that trust, quietly, constantly. Something that creeps in through our screens, our conversations, even our parenting. Our opinions, too many of them, about too many things that don't really matter. 10. Have fewer opinions, clarity in the age of noise. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You always have the power to have no opinion." At first glance, that feels passive, indifferent even, but it's not. It's powerful, because every opinion you hold comes with a cost. A little slice of your attention, a little thread of your peace. And if you're not careful, you spend your whole day reacting to things that aren't yours to fix, to fight, or to feel. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Your cousin posts something political. A celebrity makes a choice you don't understand. None of it needs your opinion. None of it asked for your judgment. But most of us jump in anyway, comment, scroll, spiral. And then we wonder why we feel drained. Epictetus said it clearly. It's not things that upset us, but our opinions about things. And many of those opinions aren't even ours. They're inherited, absorbed, algorithmically implanted. So what if you let them go? What if you chose stillness over snark? What if you let people be without weighing in? What if you preserved your energy for what actually matters? This doesn't mean being numb. It means being intentional. Because the less energy you waste judging what you cannot change, the more energy you have to change what you can. And that brings us to a story, a simple one. A story about a little boy, a beach, and a starfish. Because sometimes the most powerful opinion you can hold is that it still matters to care. 11. Help the starfish. Small acts, big soul. There's a boy walking down a beach. After the storm, thousands of starfish lie stranded on the shore, dying. He bends down, picks one up, and throws it back into the sea. A man nearby watches and scoffs. There are thousands, he says. You'll never make a difference. The boy picks up another. It mattered to that one. That's it. That's the whole story. And it's one we forget far too easily. Because we think the world needs big solutions. Sweeping reform. Viral movements. But the Stoic knows, real change starts small. It starts with the person in front of you. The trash on your street. The kindness withheld from a stranger, then offered. Cleanthes, one of Zeno's successors, once saw a man berating himself in the street. He stopped, looked him in the eye, and said, "You're not talking to a bad person." That moment, that one sentence, it was a blow against cruelty, a quiet rebellion, a restoration of dignity. This is how you fight back, not by shouting louder online, but by showing up more deeply in real life. You see a stray dog? Help. A neighbor struggling? Ask. A soul breaking quietly? Be there. Because courage isn't just running into fire. Sometimes it's daring to care when the world tells you it's pointless. General Mattis once said, "Cynicism is cowardice." And he was right. To believe in goodness in a time of disappointment is radical. To keep acting when the odds are against you is heroic. You don't have to save the world, but you can save someone's moment. And if you want to shift the future, start with the one place where your influence runs deepest. Your home, your children, the people who will carry your actions forward. 12. Raise your kids right, where legacy really begins. The world feels heavy, corrupted, off course, and some days it's tempting to throw your hands up and say, "There's nothing I can do." But that's not true, because there's a future eating breakfast across from you. There's a revolution in the back seat of your car. There's a new world brushing its teeth, waiting for bedtime stories. You want to change the world? Start at home. Ryan writes the Daily Dad not just for others, but for himself. It's his reminder, his mirror, his quiet commitment to show up as the father he wants his kids to remember. Because what we model gets mimicked. What we neglect gets normalized. If you rush through life, they will too. If you snap in frustration, so will they. If you numb yourself with screens, they will learn to turn away from pain instead of facing it. But if you choose patience, if you show how to fail with grace, if you practice presence even when it's hard, then you're not just raising kids. You're raising the kind of people this world needs. And no, you won't always get it right. Neither did your father, or his father before him. But every conscious choice you make now, it's a chance to redirect the generational current. Seneca said, "We should not teach our children to seek pleasure, but to endure adversity, because life will test them, and the best thing we can give is strength wrapped in love." The Stoic doesn't try to control the future, but they do shape it, quietly daily, in the way they raise the next generation. And that brings us to perhaps the hardest lesson of all, how to stay human when the world tries to harden you. 13. Don't let them turn you bitter, the last stand of the soul. There's a war being fought every day, not with bullets, but with bitterness. Not in the streets, but in the soul. It's a war waged by disappointment, by betrayal, by the slow drip of daily ugliness that wears good people down. And if you're not careful, the world will do something far worse than hurt you. It will make you like it. That's why Marcus Aurelius warned himself. The best revenge is to not be like them. Don't become petty because they were. Don't become cruel because they laughed at you. Don't give up on beauty because others have sold their soul for cynicism. Some days it'll feel impossible. When people you love fall into darkness. When public figures you once admired chase clicks instead of character. When friends choose ego over empathy. You'll want to shout, withdraw, harden. But that's when the Stoic steps forward and says, "Not through me. I will not let the trolls turn me into one. I will not let outrage make me outraged. I will not let the brokenness of the world break me." Because this is where strength is forged, not in retaliation, but in restraint. Not in being louder, but in staying rooted. Not in proving them wrong, but in staying right. Ryan said it best. "I'm not letting the sons of bitches turn me into one." That's your vow, your armor. Not to become soft, but to remain good. Because staying soft in a hard world, that's not weakness. That's resistance. That's rebellion. That's power. And if you want to build that kind of power, the kind that doesn't waver in storms or snap under pressure, there's only one way to find it. Do hard things, on purpose, daily, with discipline. It's raining, it's cold, the bed is warm, and yet you rise. You lace your shoes, step outside, jump into the plunge, not because it's pleasant, but because it's hard, because you've learned what the Stoics knew. Discomfort is not the enemy, it's the forge. Seneca once said, "We treat the body rigorously so that it is not disobedient to the mind." And Marcus? He described life as wrestling. Not boxing, wrestling. No breaks, no bell, no easy outs. So you train, not for the aesthetics, but for the armor, for the mental muscle it builds, for the invisible strength that comes from doing something your emotions begged you to avoid. Ryan swims in cold water before dawn. He runs, bikes, pushes himself, because when you do hard things by choice, the hard things life throws at you feel different. They don't defeat you, they reveal you. And if your breath catches in the cold, if your legs burn in the final mile, if your journal page shakes in your hand as you admit what scares you, good. That's where growth lives. That's where clarity sharpens. That's where character is carved. We don't train to impress. We train to endure. To be strong without being hard. To bend without breaking. To fall and rise again with more wisdom than before. And that's Stoicism. Not theory, not aesthetics. Practice, presence, persistence. You don't need to conquer mountains. Just start with the morning. Just do the thing that feels inconvenient. The thing that stretches you. Because every hard thing you do, it's a quiet vote for the person you're becoming. And in a world waiting to break you, you build yourself instead. Life won't get easier. The news won't slow down. People won't always be kind. The future won't ever feel certain. But that's okay, because you can get stronger, more grounded, more present, more whole. That's what Stoicism is. Not escape, but engagement with the world, rooted in principle. Not detachment, but discipline. Not control over others, but mastery over yourself. Every morning, you'll be tested. By the noise, by fear, by distraction. But now you know, you have a choice. You can choose what to focus on, what to feed your mind, what kind of person you will be, no matter what others say or do. So build your inner citadel. Do the work. Read the books. Reflect deeply. Raise others up. And when the world turns dark, be the one who stays lit. If this message stirred something in you, don't let it end here. Subscribe to this channel. Leave a comment with the line that hit you the hardest. And share this video with someone who needs it. We're building something here. Not just a channel, not just a philosophy, a movement, a way of being, a practice for the storm, and I'd love for you to walk it with me.